Thank you.
I wasn't sure why we started that. Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Access Advisory Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Chair Marston,
Here.
Vice Chair Sorgman. Here. Committee Member Kovich. We acknowledge Kovich was not able to attend. Committee Member Kuntz.
Here.
Committee Member Luckett. We also acknowledge Luckett was not able to attend. Committee Member Rassler.
Here.
Committee Member Tejada. Council Member Oscar Gutierrez. Brian Demore.
Here.
John Doimus. Sarita King.
Here.
Raymond Lamb.
Here.
We have a new staff member, Ilana, so
Welcome.
and welcome to the public. Is that Nancy back there? Yes, sir. Okay. And Gregory, is it? And Martha, where did she go? Gus. Pardon? Gus. Gus. Is Martha here?
She may have stepped out.
Okay. Okay, the next item is committee member reports. I want to first emphasize that if you want to speak in public comments, you have to fill out a speaker slip and hand it over to the desk over here. And you have a 5-minute maximum. And those on Zoom, you have to raise your hand on the screen, and you'll be called to speak. We have public comments after each of the agenda items. And after each presentation, we wait for the whole presentation, and then we have questions from the members. Then we have comments from the audience, either here or on Zoom, and then the members have discussions. Okay, any staff announcements? Item number.
Yeah, a couple of things. So as mentioned earlier, we do have staff in training here. Leilani Arteaga is going to be the new support staff for this committee. It's been Sarita over the years, Sarita King, who's online. So today you'll notice there might be a little bit of dialogue off to the side here. Please be patient with that. Raymond is working with Leilani to get her trained and up to speed. And in the new year, what we're transitioning to, rather than have two staff, one online and one in person, Leilani can handle all of that here with one staff person. So today we've got great coverage. We've got 3 administrative staff helping to support this meeting. A couple other things. The schedule for 2025 has been posted on the website, so those dates are out. It's February 21, May 16, August 22, and November 14th. Those are the 4 regular meetings scheduled for 2025. And I think that mostly, that covers it. Thank you, Chair Marston, for informing the public about the public comment process. I think there's another note here. Just when we go to break, just for people to be aware, any conversation, the recording is still going, so conversation can get picked up on that, so just be aware. Otherwise, I think we're ready to go.
I just want to make sure that we note that Susan Tejada is here now. And I just wanted to thank
Vice Chair Zobrin, could you please turn on your mic? Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure that that Susan has been noted as arriving. And then also wanted to thank Sarita. If this is her last meeting, maybe? Well, the goal is that it should be, okay. Sarita, thank you so much for all your efforts and coordination and patience with everyone, so you'll be missed.
You are welcome. Thank you very much.
And Chair Marston says, thank you very much also. Thank you, Sarita.
Here, here.
I think I ditto that.
Okay. Next is public comments. Anyone here in the audience that wants to make a comment, please turn in your speaker slips. And then those on Zoom will be called later. You can just raise your hand. So do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have one in-person public comment from Augustus Albertson.
Gus is going to be using his AAC to make his comment.
Good morning, Access Advisory Committee. I want to raise two concerns regarding wheelchair access at city-owned properties. The first concern is at the Cabrillo Pavilion at East Beach. Each door does not have an automatic button to open the door. In order to activate the automatic feature, wheelchair users have to pull the doors slightly. This is a problem because the wheelchair user has to reverse in order for the doors to completely open. It would be much simpler to have automatic buttons for each door. My second concern is regarding Fiesta 5 Theater. I understand that the theater will be used for the upcoming film festival. The wheelchair lift has been broken several times in the past and has a great chance of breaking. I have friends that use wheelchairs and they have gotten stuck. Thank you very much. Great dog nanny. Head of Morning Access Advisory Committee.
Got his dog command mixed into it.
Thank you for those items. I think we're going to be both looking into that, so thank you very much for coming.
If I can, because I don't know how well that was recorded, I'm just going to repeat those two issues that we heard, so that make sure we get that into the record. But it was Cabrillo at East Beach. We heard that the doors, not all of the doors have an automatic open button, and that is problematic for entering and exiting the facility. So we will look into that issue at that facility. And then the other location is Fiesta 5, which is going to be leased to the film festival, and it's likely to be used by the film festival in the upcoming event, the annual film festival. The wheelchair lift there, we have heard, is problematic and has issues. So now that, well, it's always been a city-owned facility, but I think we have more control with film festival than when it was Fiesta 5. So we're aware of that, and we're planning to look into that, reaching out to film festival and figuring out if we can either put a more reliable lift in there or some kind of capital improvements to, I mean, ideally there isn't a lift and there's ramped access, so you don't have to rely on technology to get in and out of there. So those are the two issues that we heard.
I want to thank Gus for bringing those to us. They're both items that this committee has been actively following up on. I do want to correct or actually seek clarification on a comment Mr. Demore just made about the theater being leased in the future to the film festival. I believe that lease is already commenced, and I believe that unpermitted construction has already begun.
I know there's work happening there, but I don't know the extent of that and whether it's permit triggering work, but they have taken out seats. There's been some just interior I think, more demolition type work, but yeah, I don't know the status of permitting on that.
I think that the work that they have taken upon themselves, from what I understand from also reading some articles, that they've already done the work, they've replaced seats, and that would have, it's an alteration. That would have triggered some kind of plan review to make sure that what they put back has this, the right type of accessible seats within the range of vision and all of the requirements in the CBC. So it does require a building permit, and I'm not quite sure why the city would allow work to happen without that being discussed with the building department.
So do you get notification that the building department has not had a permit?
Well, I looked through the records. They did send something to Tina Dye, just saying that the work, at least what was publicized in newspaper articles, and then other members of the public that have brought up the issue, and said there are no permits in Excella, and why is that? And, can you please review why that happened and what needs to be done? Because in essence, what you have then is alterations that don't allow someone with a disability to be able to use or visit the facility because that wheelchair lift isn't accessible at the moment. It's not working. And because it's a city-owned property, and because city has given funds to this organization, it's a program of the city. And you can't put on a new program and not make it accessible to everyone. It puts the city at a liability, and there's a risk in that.
ADA Title II.
Brian, can you or Cliff get to the bottom of this, because they have removed all the seats?
Chair Marston, could you please turn on your mic?
Is the mic on?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Can you or Cliff take care of this? Because like I said, there's no permit. They've done a lot of demolition and moving stuff around, and it's just not correct. There should be a permit at least.
They're clearly moving to accommodate the public in a short time frame, but they're leaving a section of us behind.
Yeah, I will look into this.
And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there seems to be no emergency exit from the building in case of fire or damage or something. There used to be an exit off to the house side by the marshals and the restrooms. So if the lift is down, there's no way to get out. So those should have been looked at and taken care of ahead of time. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Any other public comments?
No,
How about on Zoom? No?
no online comments.
Okay. Okay, the next thing is approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes?
I have some comments. All right, so I wanted to thank you for your comments and just reminded me to chime in on this one. Recently, I think in the last couple of weeks, the city sent out an email, and I want to say bragging, but it's a good thing that they were acknowledging for 19 years that they have participated in a program that is trying to make the workplace more inclusive, and awards were given to different organizations that employ individuals, that make accommodations, that try to make it easier for someone to participate in the workforce. And that was a good thing. I think I sent that to the building official and to the supervisor just to say, hey, thank you, this is a great thing. I think about a week ago, the city sent out an email, again, trying to introduce a new program, again, trying to get the public to participate. This was geared more toward bilingual community, which is great. You want the community to speak up and tell you what they're interested in. And so, and I want to thank Brian for, responding to my questions about minutes. And I know this is not a staff thing. I'm not criticizing staff. I just think that the general policy. This is an accessibility advisory committee. One would think that the city would want to do better. I used to plan check for the city of Santa Barbara for 17 years. 14 of those years were commercial plan check. And we used to kind of chuckle because people would brag about building. I built a code. Well, that's the letter C. You're bragging about getting a C, being average. So why can we not do better with our minutes? We used to have an individual who was deaf. So going to a video is not going to help him any. I pointed out that some of the comments in here, I know that you say that this mimics what city council does, but why can we not do better? I would imagine that of all committees, that this would be the one committee that the city would try to be more accommodating, to, reach and be able to make sure that everyone has some voice, some ability to communicate, some ability to check on what the committee's doing, what the city's doing. And so I guess it's just disappointing to just be given the standard line that this is what everyone else does, so this is what we're going to do. But this is an access advisory committee in which we're trying to make sure that it's inclusive, and we've not reached that level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And I will say there's people who are deaf who cannot hear anything from a video. And I have another question that sometimes as a group we've been misled by departments promising one thing and then not doing it. You used to be able to take the minutes and go and show the attorney, the city attorney or a private attorney, here it is in writing that they said this and they didn't do it. Now with a video, how does one prove that last year this group said this and they didn't do it? You have to listen to a 5 or 10 minute video and say, but no, wait, no, listen to this part. How does one say, hey, this is what really went on in the minutes, in the meetings? I don't like just to have just video. I'm sorry, but I have to agree with Elizabeth. It's not accessible. And there's no way really to prove anything. There's nothing. It should be in writing. It should be a piece of paper that says, here's what it says. That's my thought.
So here's just a comment. Number 3, public comment. These are the minutes. It tells you that people have the ability to make public comment. There were a few people that made public comment at the last meeting. That's not reflected in these minutes.
So Brian, can you take a look at this, what we can do?
If I may, I think with video, you actually can prove much, much more than you can with the written word because it's visual for those who can see, interpretive. You also get the benefit of vocal inflection, of body language, of nonverbal communication, and so much more. Now, granted, not everybody can access that. However, I think it should be both. I don't think it's either or. I think this is both and. It's both video and the written word. The and is for whatever comes next, because we're going to continue to evolve. There will be other ways to share and communicate information that we may not be aware of. So I think it's both and. We should have video, we should have written minutes, and whatever comes next to help other people who can't follow along either in the written word because they can't read or visually because they can't. How about sound? How about auditory? Without the visual. There are. So I just don't think we should limit it and say either or.
I agree with Committee Member Rassler. The video is important to have, but I think more to Committee Member Marston's or Chair Marston's point, having it in writing makes it easier to search for. If you have a recollection of certain events and you're trying to substantiate that on the city's official record, a text search is a lot easier to find what you're looking for than a video.
So I want to ask a question. How many committee members went through the video to look at, or in terms of minutes? Did anyone look at them?
I did not this time. I have in the past.
Okay, I mean, I didn't.
I have in the past, but I read the minutes this time.
Okay.
I just want to say to Mr. Rasser, no one's really saying we shouldn't have video. It's just an extra thing. We need something written in, as Nick said, text search or just proofed it?
One of the things that we will find going forward, it's already out there, is with the digitization of everything that is on video, you can do the same exact search digitally, and the computer will find, the segment that you want, based on keywords and things like that. It's coming, it's in beginning. All I'm saying is it's both and, because we don't know what's coming next, but every possible way that we can help the community to connect with, follow along, understand, have access to what this particular committee is doing, those are things we should be supporting and pursuing. That's all I'm saying.
All right, let's have a motion to accept these minutes, even though we'd like to change them in the future. Do I hear a motion to?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Or do we
Aye.
need a roll call? They like to do roll call.
I vote in protest.
But are you voting for in protest?
I vote for, but in protest. Thank you for helping me remember to say yes.
Do we need a real roll call, or is that okay?
Sure.
Unanimous with a protest.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like we're having the Santa Barbara Police Station.
I think we're a touch ahead of schedule. I can check in and see. We're not that much ahead of schedule, so I would have expected them to be here right now. We could take a brief break.
Or do we want to do the ad hoc committee reports, just jump one? Or-
Yeah, we could do that first.
Okay.
That's good. It's a good suggestion.
Okay, we're going to jump to number 7, ad hoc committee reports. The first one is Sidewalk Ad Hoc Committee. I want to say that I worked with Derek Bailey for quite a while on these, and he's just been a wonderful guy. Gets back to me the next day, and I have a list of things that he sent to me for Nick to read out. So this is for the Sidewalk Ad Hoc.
All right, so I have here, construction is ongoing for about 32 ramps on Garden Street between Los Olivos and Victoria, and this is mostly complete. There will be ramps added at the Garden and Pedregosa intersection, as well as Garden and Mission intersection in the coming months. Construction is ongoing for Haley Street. Haley Street includes 25 new ramps and will also include a new traffic signal at Olive Street with APS. The ramp work is complete, but the sidewalk repairs and traffic signal work will extend into the new year. Construction is nearing completion on Upper State, including Las Positas, De La Vina, Cayo Laureles, and the San Marcan/De La Vina intersection. Construction is ongoing in the West Side neighborhood for several intersections along Mountain Avenue. The intersection of Carrillo Street and Chapala Street is complete, except for a minor drainage issue, which is being addressed this week. Construction has started on 22 ramps on the Mesa along Flora Vista, Fellowship, and Red Rose. Construction has started on San Andres between Carrillo and Mitchell-Terena. The project includes sidewalk repairs and curb extensions with dual directional ramps. The project on Grove in the north end has not started yet. We expect it to start this fall, but the contractor is still completing other work in their contract, so likely in the new year. A project has started on De La Vina Street between Haley and Mitchell-Terena. For sidewalk repairs, the ramps are already complete. No new APS have been installed in the past few months, as the traffic signal crew has been very busy with electrical repairs associated with the Haley project and on Coast Village Road, but the Garden/Cabrillo intersection is still on their list. Also, we have received approval from HLC for construction of crosswalk ramp and loading zone ramps in front of the Granada Theater, Arlington Theater, and New Vic Theater. Those will be added to the FY22 budget project as change order and will be constructed when the contract work is completed, which is likely late winter, early spring. And as a footnote, I will add, I followed up with an inquiry regarding ramps on East Calle Laureles. There's 3 intersections, 6 ramps, which had been on the plan to do this year, but I think things must have fallen behind schedule, but I've been assured that they will be high on the priority list in the coming year.
Thank you for reading that, Nick. And Brian,
Yeah.
during your report, can you update us on the access at the 3 Cedars?
I would think we pretty much heard the update on that. So it's been through the HLC, it's been approved. We have a contract, which we're going to add it on as extra work, but in order to keep that contractor moving along on the contract work, it's going to be placed at the end.
Okay.
So that's why we're hearing late winter, early spring timing, which obviously sooner is better, but that's the update.
Thank you. Do we have anything from the parking ad hoc committee?
No. No, the parking ad hoc committee has not met.
Okay, the next one is outdoor dining. I haven't had anything going on, although I do have a request for Brian. Months ago, I got an email from Downtown Parking saying that they were $60,000 in the hole as far as collection for the rent for State Street parklets. I cannot get anyone to answer what's going on there, how come there's so many past due bills, what the enforcement is. So I don't know, Brian, I think you said maybe you could talk to Cliff and find out if someone can actually find out how we're collecting this money and how much is back due and what kind of enforcement there is.
Yeah, I can have staff look into that and get an update. Also, on State Street, we did talk about bringing Tess Harris in for an update on what's happening with State Street. And it looks like the February meeting will be good timing for her to come in. She wasn't available today, but just based on when they anticipate releasing some upcoming reports, I think coming on February will be pretty timely. So we can expect that at the next
Okay.
meeting.
And the next one is the recognition nomination committee.
Nothing new to
I
report.
would guess there's nothing there. Special events,
A couple of emails a few months ago, we were hoping to have a meeting, but it has not been set up yet. I know Karen was corresponding about some of the upcoming community-wide activities and how do we ensure that the areas and locations set aside for those requiring access, are in fact reserved for them. I guess the experience she had recently, and I don't recall if it was Fiesta or Solstice, but an area was set aside and reserved and marked off, but other people just came and used it, from retirement homes or elsewhere. And there was no way to really designate or keep separate for handicapped individuals. And I don't know where that's at, but I know Karen was talking with people from Parks and Recreation, and I think that was the next thing we were going to tackle. Is that your recollection,
That's
Nick? Something
Yeah. Yep.
ballparkish?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is committee member Sorgman. Was there signage? Is there some ability to put signage up?
Yeah, there was some signage, ADA compliant or ADA area, and it was raised, and there were some chairs there, but it wasn't specifically reserved. Nobody really was in charge of it. And, we had compared notes, and each had actual photos and videos from other community events that we'd been at. I had some from San Francisco up in the Bay Area, and Karen was somewhere else down here in the South Coast. But both venues had distinct areas that were set aside with ramps, with raised, with easy viewing. I think another issue was the area they set aside for handicap seating. It was covered, but the view was terrible. And it wasn't near where the accessible bathrooms, the porta potties, it just wasn't really coordinated well. So I'm just trying to continue to work on that.
And I think one other thing that I can report from that ad hoc is that we've made progress. We've gotten some action. One of the kind of, I don't want to call it a point of failure, but a disconnect is that the public doesn't know about these things that are now available, and so it went unused largely.
Right, or unused appropriately.
Yeah.
Thank you. The last one is the ADA transition plan ad hoc, and I would think that, I have nothing to report because we've been waiting for this later meeting today, so I have nothing there.
All right.
Any news from the police station?
Well, maybe we can do the ADA coordinators report.
So
We're
Brad,
here. We're here.
yes, they're remoting in, and I will
Okay.
tab through their PowerPoint.
Can you please also elevate David Carlson as a presenter, please?
Okay, I'm going to do that right now. Brad Hess, I tried to promote him. He is unable to join as a panelist, so it will be David Carlson and Jeff Hornbuckle. Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Please let me know when you want me to proceed through the PowerPoint.
Will do. Good morning, committee members. This is David Carlson. I'm the access compliance consultant to the team on this project. Jeff, do you want to do an introduction as well? This is your project.
I believe Brian Demora was going to introduce the project. Is that
Okay.
right, Brian?
Passing the buck.
Well, it's different without you guys here in the room, but I think this is going to work out just fine. So yeah, those are our two presenters. This project, just a quick update on this. We awarded, or the council authorized the award of a contract for construction on Tuesday afternoon with Pro West Constructors. We probably won't be seeing actual construction on site until January, but there's a lot of work now in progress to gear up for that. So today we have members of the design team on board to present some highlights of the project, really focusing on where the public is most likely to interface with this facility. There's hundreds of plans sheets that went through building and safety. So we really are just focusing on those public-facing aspects of this. But if there are other questions, certainly we've got the right team here today to answer. So with that, I will turn it back over, either to Jeff or to David. I'm not sure who was going to go first, but thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Jeff Hornbuckle here with the Cornell Collective, project architect for the project. We're excited to show this committee, the latest and where we're at with the project. It's been a long process, but as Brian said, we're close to beginning construction, and we're very excited to get the construction started and get the police department moved into this building. The important building for our community, and we're excited for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to David, who's going to run through the presentation. I'm obviously here for questions. I'm sure you all will have questions, so I'd be happy to answer those at the end of the presentation. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So Brian, you'll just click through on my request?
Yes, just let us know.
Okay. Okay, so again, I'm David Carlson. I'm the consultant, the access compliance consultant to the design team for this project. And so we'll touch on, there's basically, I would say there's really three different constituents, different groups that this building is going to serve. Obviously, the general public. Secondly, we do need to address and make access compliance available for detainees that would be potentially that would be disabled. And then thirdly is the police department staff and police officers. So you can click through. So here's the site plan of the building showing the entire building. Building is on the right-hand side, closest to the intersection of Coda and Santa Barbara. And then there's the parking structure on the west side. There's a small parking lot you can click through. Next. We have an 8-space parking lot right as you come into the property. Click. And we do provide one van accessible parking space, and that's parking space that's closest to the entry. And click. And there's the direct entry into the lobby space. That is the public point of contact. We have a 6-foot wide accessible sidewalk that is being improved all the way around the entire property. And then also there's a new accessible curb ramp at Dakota and Santa Barbara Street intersections. Here's a zoom in on the parking lot area, so you can see the parking right there, the 8 parking spaces and the van accessible parking space, which is closest to the entry. And that's the path of travel. It's about 50 feet from the parking space to the entry door, and then click, and then that's showing you the access along Santa Barbara, going down and directly in. It has direct connection to into the building. And there's a view of the main lobby. This is as you were walking into the building. You can see there's the stair going up. There's the counters, the service counters on the left-hand side. Click. And here's a zoom in. You're going to click. We have an accessible service counter. It does provide access at 34 inches high. We have the public elevator right adjacent to that as you come into the building. There is one all-gender single occupant restroom that is access compliant. And then there's the stair going up to the 2nd floor. It is behind a locked gate for security, but it is a compliant stair going up. Click. And then you can click through this. I just have some images in here. So this is generally behind the public area. That blue area, that's showing really the accessible paths throughout. We have maintained the minimum requirement, exceeded the minimum requirement widths for all of the pedestrian walkways throughout the inside of the 1st floor. There's the access routes. We do have accessible gender-specific restrooms, accessible drinking fountains for the staff, and then that's showing again where the elevators are. And then there are open offices. Furniture will go in there. Obviously, furniture would, when they do the furniture, will need to maintain the access routes throughout. And then conference rooms on the back side of the building as well. These are all inside of the employee space. Now going down to the basement level, which is the primary folks being served are going to be the police department staff and officers, as well as the detainees. So they're again showing where those paths of travel are throughout the basement space. Click. That's the accessible routes. We do have accessible all gender single occupant restrooms, and there's a shower in there as well. Click. There's a accessible route from the secure parking. We have secure parking on the basement level for detainees, and that is the path of travel for detainees coming in. And then there's the accessible processing and interview area. Now going just outside of that, this is actually the parking garage area. You can click. And so we have accessible parking directly connected to the detention facilities. Just to the right of that is the tunnel that goes into that secure area. You want to click. And then click again. And this is a zoom into that space. So this is really the area where detainees would be brought in, showing the path of travel there in blue. Click. Showing that's the access route. We do have accessible all-gender restroom. We also have an open holding area with a compliant bench that has the required transfer space. And then we do have one accessible secure holding cell. Has an accessible toilet, has the 5-foot turning circle. And then also up on you see on the north side of that, the 3 rooms up at the top there with the turning radius is shown. Those are all interview rooms, and those all have the ability to have access compliance for disabled detainees. And now we're going to go up to the second floor. Second floor there again. Second floor is, for the most part, it is for staff and officers. However, there is the meeting rooms, the community rooms. Those are really the spaces that are going to be for the general public. And those are the rooms up on the upper left-hand side that you'll see, showing again in blue, showing the accessible routes throughout the building. We do have, there's available to the public, one accessible multiple occupant, all gender public restroom facility. So we don't have, on this level, we do not have gender specific male and female restrooms. There's one large restroom there. Each one of those toilet stalls is a toilet room in and unto itself. There is one accessible one, as you see on the bottom of that, of those 5 toilet stalls. So that has direct access to the public area of the building. There's accessible lockers for the PD. Showers also, we are providing accessible showers and toilet rooms for the police. And then we do, again, have elevators, the elevators that go to all floors. The one on the right-hand side is the one at the public area. And then we have the accessible community rooms. And that's really where the areas that the public would interface and have access to. And then we get up to the 3rd floor. That's overlooking the stairwell. Here is the staff break room. Now we're getting up into the space where this is really primarily serving just the staff and police force. The public can come up, will be able to come up there, but under escort. So move forward. Again, showing the paths of travel throughout. We have accessible multi-occupant gender-specific restrooms. We have an accessible break room for the staff. And then the elevators up on the 3rd floor. Again, these go down. The one on the right-hand side is the one that goes down to the lobby. The one on the left-hand side is the one that actually is more in the secure area. And then there's open offices. Again, like I said before, the open offices, furniture will need to be procured for that, and obviously we'll want to have the required paths of travel throughout that office space. And that's basically the access compliance elements to the project.
Thank you. So first we'll have any questions from the members, and then we'll have public comments, and then we'll back to discussion. So any questions from the members?
Well, I have some questions and a general comment. I feel like I'm Susie Naysayer today. This is Committee Member Sorgman. One, it was really disappointing that I think we've known for 2 or 3 months that a presentation was going to be made on the police department project, and we didn't get plans until yesterday in the afternoon. So it's really difficult if someone has a regular job to try to take a look at all these sheets and have, make comments. So again, disappointing that we're not given, our time is not respected, that we waited until the very last minute to get this, and, to try to look at it holistically and ask questions that make sense. It just doesn't allow enough time. The other thing that I noted is that they're pretty fluffy pictures. You sent us a presentation and you have keynotes. You see the numbers, but there's no legend to let me know what those mean. So I have no idea, is something missing? What does this represent? And so I am just going to go through the PDFs. It was number 3. I think that might have been the site plan. It's like, where are the detectable warnings? You're not supposed to have an accessible route in the vehicular way. Section 250, just in the general scoping for circulation paths, is requiring you to lift it up 4 inches. and yet I don't see that in those drawings or in the rendering. So are you citing an exception? How is your approach? Why are there no domes being shown? Can you go to number 3, your PDF? Is that number 3? So can you explain how you've separated the vehicular way and the accessible routes in the egress paths that are supposed to be also accessible?
David, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, can you go? I was trying to turn my mic on.
I mean, it could be that this drawing doesn't show that, and there's
It
keynotes.
does. That's the thing, is it does not. This is just the rendering here. It doesn't really show what it is. So we do have on the along the at the sidewalk portion there. I believe we are putting in the truncated domes on either side of that.
Okay, so that underscores my frustration. You're sending me drawings that we're supposed to review as an accessibility committee and accept these, and yet you haven't given us sufficient tools to be able to analyze or to make comment. I mean, you have 2 architects on this board, others who are involved in accessibility, and yet you've kind of ignored us. And you didn't give us anything that we can look at. So I'm just going to keep going down my little list because, again, your plans are incomplete for me to be able to interpret what you're trying to represent. If you go to slide number 5, so your perspective shows something a little bit different than what this plan shows. If you go back to your perspective, and again, it just kind of, it highlights the architectural approach of kind of ignoring accessibility in the perspectives, where you've got, I think, a couple of people sitting at a taller counter, yet that counter should also have a lower section, and it doesn't. It's in the middle of the lobby.
Actually, the entire service counter is accessible.
I'm talking about the one that's in the middle of the lobby, not the one at the service counter.
The tables in the middle?
No, if you go to the perspective, let's go to the perspective of this area.
No, I think you want to go back.
Yeah, go the other way. Okay, so you see those 3 individuals standing at that higher section? I mean,
And
that should.
That is an earlier rendering. So this
Okay.
was done early on in the project. So it is, if you go to the, flip over to the
All right,
next
and
one,
so
that is,
that's the point. Even in the rendering,
understand.
you're not acknowledging that there's accessibility components to that counter. And so it's kind of peppered throughout your drawings, where you have the employee lounge. You've got a really nice rendering of this counter that's all uniform height with high chairs, yet that's also a section that's supposed to have an accessible counter, and it doesn't. All right, so let's go to that was number 7. That's okay. So number 9, the accessible showers. It just seemed, because there's no dimensions, I wasn't able to see what layout you were using for the showers. All right, so I'm sorry, you can, that one right there, let's stop there. The accessible all-gender restroom on the upper left-hand corner. I don't understand that you are supposed to have 60 inches clear, and the grab bar behind the water closet would be 3 feet. How does that not encroach into that lavatory? Is this just a general drawing and you didn't show us the correct one?
yeah. I think so.
I mean, because that's not accessible.
It's accessible.
I mean, not in this drawing.
What about it that's not accessible?
So you have a 3-foot grab bar behind the water closet. You center it on the water closet, so it's projecting into, looks like it's projecting into the front of the lavatory where the sink is. And again, there's no dimension, so I'm just having to guess visually at what these might represent. So that's an area that I don't know that complies. I mean, you're allowed to overlap it if it's a residential project. This is not a residential project. On PDF number 13, you have a baby changing table in the accessible restroom, and that's not allowed. So is there another baby changing table outside of the accessible restroom?
I don't believe what you're looking at. That's, and I apologize because it's very small seeing that. And
So it was
I-
slide number 13 or PDF number 13.
I'm trying to go on. I have on a second screen here. I'm looking at so I can zoom in on it myself.
No, that's the only baby changing station within
yeah.
that restroom.
Okay, so the code doesn't allow you to do that. I mean, you can have it there, but you have to have another one outside of that space. And that, again, if you're a parent and you're trying to change your baby's diaper, you're going to go into the accessible stall, and there may be someone that needs to use it, but you're in there because you're
Right.
using, so you need to have another one outside of that area. And so I didn't see that on your plans.
Well, I'll take a look at that with Jeff.
All right, so can you explain to us, how are you treating the separation of the vehicular route and I'm sorry, the vehicular way and the accessible routes?
Are you so go back up to slide?
I think it's your number 3.
There's an exception under CVC 11B 250
Right, there's exceptions. So which one
that
are
we're
you using?
utilizing. Yeah.
So which one are you utilizing?
Oh gosh, I don't know which one off the top of my head.
Okay, so are you using, I mean, in new construction, the domes aren't supposed to be used. So I'm trying to, maybe you can email us or email to Brian what exception you're using so that we can take a look at
Sure.
that. Okay?
Sure. And just so you understand, I mean, we've gone through the plan check process, right? Maybe we had a little bit of a misunderstanding as to what this presentation, the intent of this presentation was. We were asked to present the accessible features of the building, but not, go through the accessible, details of every aspect of the building, showing all the keynotes and dimensions and, to that level of detail. So, I think there was just a little bit of misunderstanding there. So I apologize for, any misunderstanding there.
So it doesn't bring this committee any, I guess, comfort in knowing that it's gone through plan check. I mean, we are all aware of the city of Los Angeles, whose, I think, is a $40 million settlement because plans that had been approved and built, inspected, still were done wrong. And we had
Right,
that
and
same,
that's-
we had that
that's why
same.
We have a CASP that's part of the design team.
Well, but we still had the same situation with the Cabrillo Arts Center. And so the fact that you have some of these plans that are still showing erroneous information, I just have to wonder how closely does someone take a look at these? David, do you go through every detail, every sheet, and mark these up? Or is that what you did?
That I did go through all of this, yeah.
So through every detail, through every drawing, and made comments?
Well, I'm not going to say every detail, but I did go thoroughly through.
I mean, accessibility details is what I'm asking. 'Cause-
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, again, super disappointed because we had half a day, or not even that, to take a look at
Well-
plans. And I get that there's miscommunication, but that seems to be the common theme, miscommunication with this board.
We were asked to provide the presentation by noon on Thursday, so if there was
Okay, and sorry, I
a
mean,
request to have that sooner, that was not communicated to us.
and thank you for letting me know that. I don't mean to, there was obviously some breakdown, but we've known that this presentation was going to be made for a couple of months. So it's disappointing to hear that you only found out about this a few days ago.
Can I suggest that we move for a continuance on this item? That we,
I would second that.
and we get back to staff with what we'd like to see in a future presentation, and that we, have some period of time reasonable period of time to digest a report before we discuss it in an open hearing.
All right, so are you making a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
If I could just ask a question before a motion is made, I guess just to help us better, prepare, if I could understand what the purview of this board is and what role it serves in terms of, the review of a project, how that's related, right? Just so that we can better prepare a presentation, knowing what information needs to be provided and what what the role of this board is in terms of providing comments, etc.
This is Brian DeMore. I'm just going to jump in on that and say that the role of the committee is to advise staff basically on matters related to accessibility. That's basically the shortest summary of what their role is. So this project, the committee is interested in accessibility-related items. And it sounds like the committee's interested in some of the detail, maybe more detail than we had anticipated. I'm okay with continuing the discussion. I think it would be helpful if there are other questions or comments that committee members have, though, to share that today. It doesn't have to wait until a follow-up meeting.
Yeah. And I apologize to the architectural team. We actually sent an email about a year ago asking specifically about this project and questioning some of the information that was in the preliminary drawings, and apparently that didn't get forwarded to your team.
If it was a question about the parking, that did get forwarded on to us, and that was, that was correct, and that was updated.
All right, so how many total spaces are or have been proposed, and how many accessible parking stalls are being proposed?
Let's see. So obviously the public parking, the surface parking, there's 8 total spaces, and there's the one van accessible space that David noted. Within the secure parking garage, there are 107 employee vehicle spaces, of which there are, let's see.
Should be 8 spaces?
No.
No.
There are 2 standard
5, right?
ADA, and there's 1 van ADA.
So you said there's 107?
107.
Oh, 107, I heard 170, okay.
No,
Yeah, no,
107.
sorry.
Okay, yeah.
107.
So
And then there
107 would be 5 accessible parking
Should
stalls.
be 5 spaces, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And then there are 127 fleet vehicles spaces, of which there are, let's see, 3 standard ADA spaces and 1 van ADA space.
Okay.
And I will say there are we have electric vehicle spaces as well, and so there's 1 standard ADA EV space, and there's 1 van accessible EV space for the employee, and there is for fleet there is, let's see, 1 van. Let's see. Actually, there are no EV accessible spaces. There's an exception in the code that doesn't require fleet vehicles from providing EV accessible spaces.
Okay.
Can I ask, does the city own a fleet vehicle that could transport a wheelchair-bound detainee?
Oh, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but we can find that out.
That'd be great. Maybe we should be looking into what requirements there are for that.
This is Chair Marston. I think we actually talked about that a year ago.
Yeah,
Answering
I
how
know
do
I
you-
asked the question a year
Okay,
ago.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we asked this over a year ago. How do you
Yeah.
pick up a person
I
in a
don't know,
wheelchair?
it's the architectural team's responsibility to answer that.
Well, I
but
understand
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
But it hasn't been answered yet.
yeah, you're right. And I'm not even sure it's required. So that would be the first question. Is it required? And then, if so, do we have one? And if not, should we?
I should be able to get an answer to that
Being
quickly.
arrested, right, Nick?
Yeah, I don't want to be manhandled and thrown in the back of a squad car, have my wheelchair left on the street.
I'll follow up with PD on that and get an answer.
Thank you.
If I can ask a question to Committee Member Swordman, for a secondary presentation that we put together, would you prefer that we put together, like, of those floor plans, like the restrooms, a larger version of that's just focused on just an inset of just those areas, so it's a little bit easier to discern on the in any presentation that we provide?
I was just looking, I mean, if you have architectural plans, I know how to read architectural plans, so.
I know you do, yeah.
So, I mean, if, I wasn't expecting this kind of presentation. I thought that you were just going to share plans that had already been reviewed, and that's sufficient for me. I'm not asking you
Okay.
to spend a bunch of time doing that. So, again, the purpose of the committee is to try to point out those areas that members of this committee have experienced and to try to make sure that those are caught. And, you know, again, the building code is the letter C. We're getting a grade of a C. Can we not do better? Santa Barbara always wants to do better, so why not do better in accessibility? So,
Absolutely.
okay.
So instead of waiting for another meeting, could you just send those out to us as soon as you can? So that our two architects can take a look at those plans? Or do you really want to put this off for 3 months?
You know, it was a motion that Nick made,
You
so.
know, I'm just looking for solutions. It didn't seem like we were going to get resolution today, and so that's one way we could move forward. If we want to just get the,
Or maybe we could have a special meeting. Maybe you could send the plans and next month we could have a meeting to take a look at that. And again, just trying to give the public opportunity to weigh in on what is it that they've experienced, what is that's important to them. You're building a building that belongs to the members of the community of Santa Barbara. And so the hope is that, you know, it's inclusive and that we're doing as much as we can, even in the community rooms, to have everything that's required and to facilitate communication. And so I appreciate just any involvement in being able to chime in and say, hey, some of these things don't make sense. And I appreciate the fact that a year ago that you took that information and so changes were made to make sure that you had the correct number of accessible stalls. So thank you.
Do we have any comments from the public on the police station? Yes, hello, Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Capani. I just have a question.
Can you come up
Hi,
here and
Nancy,
use the
can you
mic?
come to the podium, thank you.
I'll just try to talk really loud. I just
Okay.
have a question, so as
I'll bring the mic to you, actually.
Okay. I just had a question about, for a member of the public going to the new police station, where do they park? Do they have to go underground and look for an elevator, or where does the public access the new police station? That was my only question.
If you look on that drawing right there,
Yeah?
can you see the upper right-hand corner of the little accessibility symbol? Yeah, that's the one accessible stall there. So there are 8 parking spaces that are available to members of the public. And then all of the other parking spaces are for staff. And those would be gated so that no one can get in there for security reasons.
Okay, so this is the total number of public.
Correct.
parking spots for
Yeah.
the police station. Thank you.
Are there any Zoom comments?
None online.
Okay. So, do you want to schedule or try to schedule a special meeting? I guess we have to.
I'd like to know from staff, what would be your preference, continuance or special meeting?
Well, continuance would put it into February. There's not going to be much construction activity that takes place between now and then, and most of it's going to be earth moving. So that would probably be fine. We are looking at a State Street item. We are looking at City Attorney Office and City Administrator Office coming possibly to talk about the sign ordinance. So this would pretty much fill that agenda. I'm okay with that. If we waited until February, it may be hard, given holidays coming up, to try to squeeze in a special meeting. Another alternative would be, doesn't necessarily need to form an ad hoc, but we could have, if there are 2, 3 committee members who are interested in sitting down with the design team and turning through pages of plans and having more of a hands-on sort of meeting, we could do that and then report back at the February meeting. So that's another option.
I'm open to that.
That sounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be a better format,
Okay.
Okay.
Brian, to, have us there in person and just either, have a set of drawings or at least, have them digitally that we can, zoom in on and flip through.
Right. It would be great if I had the opportunity to take a look at some of the, floor plans ahead of time.
So I will withdraw my motion, and I don't know, do we need a motion to move forward on this new plan?
It wouldn't hurt if you want to recommend some kind of a.
Elizabeth, you want to make that motion?
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion just to have 3 committee members meet as an ad hoc committee with the design team to review the accessibility components of the police station.
I'll second it.
And committee member Tejada did leave the room, so we need her present for the motion, the vote.
And you may want to include which committee members, if you guys can decide that today, or I can reach out to the chair and we'll figure that out before the meeting.
I would love to see committee member Tejada in that meeting if she's willing, so.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be 3.
Right.
All right, well, we'll wait for her to come back.
Or do we just need a vote to form the ad hoc committee and not have to mention the names yet, right?
It would be helpful to have the names.
Yeah. Well, should we take 5?
Yes. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you
Can I
very
ask one
much.
more before you quit? Elizabeth, so when we to provide a set for you guys to review, should we just, there's schedules, door schedules, and all the other structural drawings and everything. You
No.
just want to see a set that's just plans and the access compliant issue features, correct?
Right. I mean, would it be easier just to give me the whole, or provide us
could,
the set? I mean, whatever is easier for you. I'm not trying to create work. I mean, I know how to navigate sets, so if it's easier just to say, here it is, fine, I can get through that, not a problem. But if it's better for you to take them out, that's okay too. So I'm leaving that up to you, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's take a 10-minute break, or 5-minute break, okay? It's,
We can let the architectural staff go and we can
Yes.
pick up on how to proceed after the break.
yeah, I thought they were already leaving.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
We should finish up with that, the last remaining, I think there was a motion right before the break.
Oh, to form an ad hoc
Yes.
on the
So,
architects?
Susan, would you be interested in, you and I and maybe someone else, and it could be just the two of us, looking at those plans for the police station and meeting with the architects? And,
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
all right, so then we have two people who have agreed to meet, and then we'll reach out to you to figure out what day.
All right. Brian, can you do your coordinators report now?
Yes, I can go ahead with the ADA coordinator report, and I'm looking at the time. We're in decent shape here. So just a few things I wanted to mention to the committee. Let's see, find my notes here. First, I wanted to let you all know I did attend portions of that disability summit that was down in Ventura. I think guess it was all the way back in September. There's some interesting sessions. There was one on emergency management, and the city's emergency services manager, Stacy, was also there, Stacy Rosenberger. So it was good to see that she was also in attendance. And then there was a session on accessible transportation options with access for all and microtransit. I was interested in that one, especially because of the conversations that have been going on about State Street and the potential for microtransit option there. And it was interesting. I don't know that it helped answer questions. It certainly put a lot of other questions in my mind, but always good to kind of break out of the bubble here in Santa Barbara and meet with other people who are doing similar things and see where they've had success or where they've had struggles. So it was good. Let's see. We talked already a little bit about special events, and I've been trying to get an ad hoc meeting scheduled for that, so I'll continue to do that. It sounds like there's definitely interest in talking more about what we can do for some of those bigger events. Another item, city budget process, so that's kind of kicking off now, and of course it goes on pretty much until July 1 when the budget's in place. But I'll look for opportunities I could send to the committee if there are certain council meetings or finance committee meetings where it would be timely to provide input to council members. I can pass that information along. I know you all might be subscribed to various things to get alerts when agendas are posted, but we all get a lot of emails and it can be hard to keep up with that. So I'll let you know. And let's see, the annual report recognition. So we didn't talk about it in the ad hoc committee reports, but I did give the annual report to council. I think it was just last month in October. And we recognized the 3 organizations that this committee nominated. That was the Grace Fisher Foundation, Blind Fitness, and Cycling Without Age Santa Barbara. And they were all present in the council chambers, and I felt like that was a great opportunity to honor the work that they've done in our community. And thank you to this committee for kind of initiating that process and creating an additional avenue to recognize organizations and individuals. In the past, we've brought individuals up. So I assume we'll be doing that again next year. So always, I guess, be mindful of organizations that are doing good things in this community.
Can I ask real quick? Sorry to interrupt. I just how is this these nominations being received by council and by the nominees? Do you have a sense of has anybody given you any feedback on that?
I haven't gotten any direct feedback on that, but I would say that it's probably the part of my annual presentation to council where the public and the council are most engaged. Okay. So I feel like it's been well received, and the fact that these organizations are attending, but yeah, I haven't heard anything too specific about that.
In addition to the organizations attending, and it's great that they were there, and Hillside was certainly there 2 years ago when the inaugural presentations were made. Rather than it really resting on the organizations to self-promote that they were recognized and acknowledged by the Access Advisory Committee and City Council, which we did, but not every organization or recipient has the wherewithal to take advantage of that and to be able to use it to self-promote, or they're not comfortable self-promoting. So I'd like to suggest that we encourage whatever the mechanisms are that information is shared throughout Santa Barbara County as well as in the city, that this be in some way highlighted, maybe a photo taken of the recipients on the steps of City Hall like we do with the recipients of the Community Development Block Grant Awards. Some way to raise a little more awareness, make it a little more public so that the public knows, as well as the recipient organizations, that this is even happening. If we raise awareness, then people are, I think, very appreciative. If it's another one of the best kept secrets of the disability community, well, then it's going to stay there as a best kept secret, and nobody's really going to care about it. So I think we need to, whatever staff does in terms of putting together the missives that go out, how do we ensure that something as special as this is also included appropriately.
I liked it very much. Perhaps in the future, we can have photographs, maybe even with the Access Advisory Committee and the recipients and Brian, and have something that could go out to the newspapers and all that kind of stuff.
Whether we like it or not, presence and visibility is critical for this committee as it is for so many other groups and organizations in town. Without appropriate presence and visibility, our work is unknown, unappreciated, and we continue to be treated the way Elizabeth shared earlier. So it is self-serving, but I think it is also important for the broader community to raise their awareness of all things disability related.
We could even try to get, recreate the one from last month, right? Get the pictures.
Mhm. All right, and then one final thing. There were some questions from, I believe it was committee member Sorgman, directed to Parks and Rec, that it took a bit, but we did get a response just recently from them on that. It had to do with certain work that they do. Sometimes, some of their work is permitted, some of it is done without permit, and I did get a response, and they asked that I can share that out. So I'll forward that email, and it's somewhat similar to what we were hearing, I would say, with this, although I don't know the details of the work at the theater, but there are certain maintenance and repair activities that don't necessarily need a building permit, but that doesn't mean they're exempt from ADA. But I'll share that out, and perhaps we'll have more discussion about that. But I just wanted to let you know I did hear back. That's all.
Brian, I have
Yep.
a follow-up question
Yep.
on the first item you mentioned about the microtransit.
Yes.
Did you see, I'm curious if you saw examples that worked for disability transit?
Not really.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which is what I, thank you.
Yeah, and we also heard about just how Uber and Lyft don't really work for some of those same reasons.
So I would like the city council to make note of that, and also Tess Harris and the team that's working on the State Street Master Plan.
I agree fully, because they keep talking about microtransit, but they have no idea what they're getting into or not getting done. So it'd be nice if we could share that and say to city council.
So how, in what format do we want that notification to reach these individuals?
When you say individuals, do you mean city council members?
And Tess Harris?
Tess Harris, the team in planning that's working on the master plan.
Okay.
Well, they will be here, the plan is for them to come here in February, and I can share with the team some highlights from what I heard at the conference so that they'll have some awareness walking into the meeting on February next year.
Seems to me that microtransit is being pushed by probably one or maybe two city council members, and I don't know that staff really wants to see it. They're just following that direction. I don't know. But guess we'll follow up in February.
Good question, Suzanne, because like you, every time I hear it, I go, but what?
Yeah.
What's it gonna do? Who's
I
gonna
mean-
serve?
I'm a member of the State Street Advisory Committee, and I've been asking that question, and I've been pushing for a shuttle. It just doesn't seem to, it just is falling on deaf ears.
As Nick has brought up, there's oftentimes, we know that the shuttles that MTD have, the electric ones with the ramp,
Yeah.
it doesn't break down, has room for wheelchairs, everything works fine with that, but somehow They want to get sexy and have micro transit.
there is some sort of politics or axe to grind behind the scene because MTD invested in those shuttles based on our needs, the city's needs, and a contract that Rob Dayton backed out of and left them hanging with these vehicles unpaid for, and now the city's being obstinate and putting them back to use on State Street. I don't understand it.
And I understand this is not an agenda item,
Right.
so I know we have to move on from that, but
Thank
thank
you.
you for answering my question.
Sure. All right, so that's all I had for the
Thank you.
ADA
And-
coordinator report.
And you'll send out email with the
Yes.
stuff from Parks and Recs?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
All right.
Okay, the next item is the ADA transition plan with Craig Schallenberger. And is it Maya in the back there?
Yes, thank you. So just have a few items for you today. I'll start with, I did take my CASP exam October 7th. Still have not heard. The state is in.
It's going to take a couple of
The
months.
state is operating in 1983 timeline. I mean, it was literally a Scantron like you do when you're in grade school.
Really?
And I don't know why they can't give you results
That
on
takes
the
like 5
spot,
minutes to grade, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, should be soon. They said 4 to 6 weeks, so we're right in that period now. Regardless, I don't know results, but it was a good experience for me to be able to pass along to my team for exam preparation. There are other members of city staff that are gearing up to take the exam next year, so regardless of the outcome, it was helpful and be useful going forward. So then I wanted to also talk today about in talking about the ADA transition plan update, I realize this is part of my inexperience. This is my third meeting here. So I've been having to get up to speed in this first year of my employment here. And what I realize is that I sort of went down a path when I first started here, looking at the CASP surveys that were done by Sally Swanson Architects, which aren't really truly the ADA transition plan that was done in 2007 by Gilda Puente Peters. So you recall the spreadsheet that I created out of the CASP surveys, which is great. It's a useful tool. The city needs that report and the spreadsheet for tracking. But what I've done is gone back and done the same thing in the meantime for the actual 2007 transition plan. And this gives us the ability, the biggest part of it is to check off items that are complete. And then just as important, what's not complete and the prioritization therein. So I'll put up on the screen, but I'll give a description as I go of what this looks like. And I want to start with this is an example of the City Hall version or the site of this is out of the 2007 plan, but this is specific to City Hall. And I'm sure you've all seen this many times, but these are the items in the report. Okay, and these will now correlate to a spreadsheet. I've created a line item for every line through all of the sites that were in the 2007 report. And when I show you the spreadsheet, you'll notice 3,500 line items are to be addressed in the transition plan.
Those
For all 9 sites, I believe it is, City Hall, Library, 630 Garden, et cetera. So, and of that, there are approximately, that I can tell, I'm guesstimating partially because I've walked City Hall and back-checked, and I've walked the library and back-checked, and then the police station, as you know, is sort of moot at this point because we're getting a brand-new one that will be accessible fully. But, so, of the 3,500 original items, about 1,500, I think, we can safely say, have been addressed. But, so you can see, it still leaves a lot of line items to complete. I'll have, at the next update, I'll have a better handle. We'll have been able to back check all of the facilities, and I'll give you a better, more accurate number of how many are complete and how many are outstanding. But this process has sort of revealed to me what an ADA transition plan update is supposed to look like. I'm supposed to update you on how many items are complete in its essence. So this is going to be, I think, very helpful going forward. And we'll have, data that we can actually track.
So this is Committee Member Sorgman, and I just want to interject. I mean, this is great that you found that, but this doesn't include items now that are, that doesn't reflect the current codes. So this was, I think, based on the 2004 code, or?
Yeah, it was, the report was 2007, early 2007.
Right.
So yeah, I think
So,
04
and I think there was
in effect.
1 year where, or 2 series where the code stayed the same because they didn't update it.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's the 2004 or the 2001
Yeah.
CBC that it
Cycle.
was, that it's using. So obviously, we're now at the 2022 code.
Right. Well,
And-
that's what the CAF survey helps
Right.
us with.
Right, so in conjunction with your CAS survey and then these sites, to be able to then figure out what,
Exactly.
Okay.
Those two together will get us to current code, as whatever remedies are made from today on will be to current code, not 07 or 04 cycle.
okay, great.
But at the same time, you will be able, looking back, to see what was remedied to the code at the time.
Correct.
And just bring it up current, marrying these two.
Correct, yes. So that actually brings me to, I'll pop it up on the screen here, and I'll try to just walk everyone through. So I'm just starting with City Hall. Again, I walked this one in detail, and so if I go over it, these are the items themselves, but the most important thing for me is the status, whether it's complete or not. And then I created a column called RA, meaning readily achievable. For obvious reasons, if it's readily achievable, it should be done right away. And then I created a column here that I think will be useful to identify the project that the city has upcoming that will address the problem. So, for example, these items, when we do De La Guerra Plaza, these items will be rectified. And City Hall specifically, we're currently in the process of design drawings and permitting for the City Hall ADA upgrades, which will include the restrooms, elevator, and all of the remaining door handles, railings, signage, anything in City Hall that's ADA related, we intend to address in that project. So between De La Guerra Plaza project and the City Hall upgrades project, we should be in very good shape on City Hall. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the columns and how we're able to track and filter, and it gives us a place to check boxes that are complete or not, and then when they will be completed. The other thing is this column PR, which is prioritization. And you may even recall this is taken straight out of the transition plan. They made a 1 through 4, 1 being highest priority, 4 being lowest priority or least priority. But I would like to actually not rely on this, and this is going to take some work probably from ad hoc to go through these things sort of line by line, and you tell us what is the priority, because there are items that frankly, I mean, strictly from a building code standpoint, there is no priority. You're either in violation or you're not. So, but that's not very practical, and we'd like to do things in an efficient way, bang for the buck, and all of the reasons you prioritize different line items. So I think that's probably a thing to defer to the next ad hoc, but we should really study this spreadsheet as a group. And ideally, you'll have the report and the spreadsheet together, and you can sort of bounce it off. It'll take some time, though. It'll be more of like a working session than just, a half hour, 1 hour meeting that, or, I just, again, I don't know what are the priorities other than what this plan is telling me. So if there's something the committee wants to see differently from this plan, I'll need to hear back from the committee.
Yeah, I would just like to acknowledge and recognize and thank you, because I think in the several years I've been serving, that's the first time a truly appropriate proposal for this committee's role and responsibility has been put out there, where the Access Advisory Committee, be really nice to be able to advise on something. Right. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to provide a little feedback. Thank you for all of this work. This is the progress we were looking for and asking of the city prior to your involvement. So it's nice to see this coming to fruition and going in the direction that we had hoped. On the prioritization, I think we did try to have a working group, and there was it was a little overwhelming. So I appreciate
many items.
all of the minutia here. I think that one filter that might be applied that would be useful is to look at things categorically.
Yep.
And things that are of a health and safety issue should be highest priority. If there's potential for slip, fall, injury, that should be the highest priority in my mind. And then we could look at other categories beyond that, perhaps.
And I know Elizabeth had mentioned accessible route being highest priority.
I was just going to comment, this is committee member Sorgman, trying to remember to say the name for staff. So.
Oh, sorry, I'm doing the same mistake.
Yeah. So the code's clear in terms of when you look at 202.3, 11B, 202.3, as to what is the intent. And so being able to access from the public right-of-way, getting someone, the route from the public right-of-way, from parking, to be able to get in the door, and then to be able to get into the facilities, restrooms and those kinds of things are, it doesn't do you any good to have signs if you can't get into the building. It doesn't do you any good to have an accessible restroom if the door doesn't allow you to get in, or that you can't park somewhere to be able to access. And so the code does give you some guidelines in terms of what are the priorities of trying to give direction. And then when you work with the committee, the ad hoc committee, because of their experience of how they navigate the world and what they're experiencing in terms of roadblocks that prevent them from participating, and that's where you're going to have some valuable input because they've experienced it. I was at the Cassie Summit. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes, and was waiting for some speakers to arrive to our event. One of them was blind. He flew in from Canada, and I just happened to catch him as he was arriving, and it just really kind of rocked my world as he struggled getting off the shuttle, trying to get into the automatic door, not being on the other side of it and people yelling to try to get him to the other side. I'm trying to figure out how to get in because the hotel was on diagonals, not 90 degrees. And, he had to have assistance at every step because he couldn't navigate the building. Just the key card, I helped him to get to his room, and then he taught me how to use my arm to kind of get him to go left, right, or stop or forward. And I struggle with technology and, even using my key card on the elevator, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way he would even know how to do this, that you have to put it, to use it to get in, to use it once you're in, to get it to your room. The thermostat, he had some certain requirement, and it was just the list went on and on. The phone, he wanted to call to make sure that certain things are in place for him, but the phone had an on button and an off button, and you wouldn't know that. I mean, he's blind, and it just, you know, I don't like to travel by myself, and I thought, okay, I'm being a real weenie here. Here's this guy who's come from Canada, who's come all this way with all these obstacles. Why can't we not make this process easier? So I think that, again, our committee can do better. I mean, you have such information here, and it just feels like no one's listening to them. And the fact that, you know, we have someone who couldn't get through that door easily, and someone had to help him, and that she had an issue with the door and had an accident, you know, because it pushed on her. I mean, all of those things you and I don't experience, and so because we're not in that world, sometimes we dismiss it or we don't think about it, and we have to think about it. We've got to do better than what we're doing. Sorry, thank you.
Amen.
Fair.
I appreciate those comments, and I also have to temper that with the fact that I feel far more heard today than I did last year, and I feel far more heard last year than I did the year before. So we are making progress. I want to acknowledge and appreciate staff for that.
Thank you. Let me just close with one item that we discussed previously, and that was there was a concern that we were using ADA transition plan funds for projects, but it's actually the way it's happening, or so far, is it's the opposite. So, for example, this City Hall upgrade project is a capital improvement project that we have not tapped into ADA transition plan funds for. So the elevator, the restrooms, all of that is capital funds. Similarly, what's another example? Well, police station, again, that is making whatever we were setting aside for the police station using transition plan funds, we won't be. We're building with this bond money. So I just want, it's complicated. There is some overlap and some give and take when there's a project, and sometimes we might need to use transition plan funds, but they would be fully allocated to the ADA measures or ADA elements of the project. So the point is, I'd really like to alleviate concerns. There is no grabbing from the transition plan to deal with rectifying past problems or anything like that. So.
Good to hear.
Yep.
I'm happy to hear that you're going to mark off, you said maybe 1,500 items that have been finished at City Hall.
Well, citywide.
Citywide. I don't know if you remember this, but I know Brian would know. For years, I've been saying you're not even giving yourself credit for fixing something. If I was in charge of the city, I would say, look what I fixed last year. But they didn't even bother to do that. So that's, to me, a good start.
I would love to see kind of a rough timeline of, here we have the 07 transition plan, and here we are in 2024, and we've almost got 50% of it done. And it seems like you can project when we're going to knock off a number of other things. And so, we might be able to estimate that we would hit a certain percentage by another milestone year, and maybe project out, when we might think that everything on the 07 plan might eventually be completed. The other comment I had about the 07 plan, I don't know which documents you're looking at, but I think I have a recollection that there is kind of the 9 facility overview is featured on the website, but that there's a much bigger document elsewhere, and I've not had a chance to attempt to digest all the scope of that.
Neither have I.
You know where it's there. You've seen it, right?
I have. And
Okay.
So the waterfront's an example. That's not in this these 9 sites, but there is a separate document for the waterfront alone that the city commissioned around the same time.
And then I would just add, we've got a lot of detail for these 9 facilities, but those aren't the only
Yeah.
general fund facilities in the city. There are many more, and in that transition plan, there are higher level reviews that were done on those facilities. And I think once we have gotten to a point where we've made sufficient progress here, we need to start looking at what's coming next, because we're not done after these 9 facilities.
Yeah.
There's a lot more work.
I've seen a lot of issues at facilities in the SB Unified School District, and I wonder if we should be advocating for a transition plan there.
It's actually an interesting idea, and maybe even I could reach out to somebody at the district just to present on what they do.
Yeah.
It's not within the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Corporation. It's
Right.
not within our purview, but it's in our community. So it'd be,
Is that
That's,
county purview?
it's state, I think it's state.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not Santa Barbara.
No.
It's DSA that reviews those projects, unless you're a private school.
So,
Craig, is there any way we can get the threshold at the Mackenzie adult building fixed? It's, how many years have you been fighting for that?
been a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, to me, it's a simple matter, very low cost, but somehow we can't get anyone to fix it. There's a lot of events there.
So this is Committee Member Sorgman. At the Cassie event that we had about a month ago, Safe Path is a manufacturer of thresholds, landings, ramps. They're not the prettiest, but that might be an inexpensive intermediate step. And in essence, what it does, it provides the landing and then the right slope to be able to get to a door so that it helps you to make up that difference. And again, I would consider it just architecturally a transition piece because it gets glued in. It looks like the playground material.
Yeah.
But it immediately solves the problem and it makes whatever is inaccessible accessible. And so that's a product that a company you might be able to reach out to in these places where there's a lot of public activity, that you can inexpensively make these entrances accessible before the big major project.
You know, that brings up a point that I didn't necessarily have on my list today, but the city has part of the, was it Measure A? What Measure A gave us was the ability to change our contracting methods, and mostly that's focused on best value projects but that's mostly for larger projects. But it also gave us the ability to do contracts from under $100,000 in a much more streamlined manner. So we talked about the ADA transition plan items, putting together like a door and hardware package and bundling it into keeping it under this $100,000 scope and doing exactly what you're talking about, just a very quick and efficient method of getting this contracted and these items rectified. And I've actually reached out to multiple general contractors. They need to get pre-qualified first to get on our list. And then once they're pre-qualified, we can issue those contracts very easily. And so I think that's the method we'll use. There's another category, 100,000 to 500,000, that we can also use. It's not quite as simple of a process as the under 100, but it's easier anyway than the traditional route. So Maya and I have talked about, we envision implementing those contracting methods to get those packages issued.
So I think this is, again, Committee Member Sorgman. The priority then would be trying to get into this space. I mean, because it doesn't do you any good to change hardware and signage and all these other items that need to be upgraded, but if you can't get in the building, then you haven't served the community. So,
Right.
entry, parking, those should always have priority before some of these others. I mean, in my opinion.
This is Committee Member Kuntz, and I'm still struggling with the fact that certain departments, namely parks, creates problems in new projects by doing work without permit, or self-permitting, self-regulating, and then not giving it the proper accessibility review. So Chair Marston mentioned the threshold at the McKenzie Adult Center. That is a situation where there's been that facility that is in really great shape by the Parks Department's own comments, and it's because they've done a lot of maintenance and capital improvements there. But time and time again, they overlook the accessibility requirements and create these new barriers that aren't showing up on this transition plan, and they overlook the transition plan obligation in the process. So they've upgraded this facility and failed to correct a known deficiency. And we're trying to get staff to bring parks in and talk to us about their process and be accountable. But they're, what's the word? I feel like, what's that? Yeah, I think reluctant is being quite generous. I think we're being stonewalled. And I want Greg to be aware of that and not get sucked in and into being complicit in that effort.
Understood, thank you. And just real quick, Mr. Marston, up on the screen, I did highlight this is one of the items, and it is a priority one.
And which one is that?
The McKenzie threshold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
definitely we will address it. That's
Just
all I.
a
that's
little
all I had.
history. The McKenzie Park is a great example of where multiple efforts have taken place that missed the mark. If they did a substantial upgrade to the ball field, and they were going to avoid the required identified improvements to the bathroom, and it's only because me and other members of this committee spoke up and forced the issue that got addressed. And so we are, this is why you hear the level of detailed interest we have in, say, the police station, because there seems to be an effort to overlook things intentionally by certain groups, make the money go further. Or maybe there's just a disconnect and we need to solve for that. But these transition plan items, that the bathroom at McKenzie, the threshold, they were there, and then these projects that should have, that had scope over that, didn't even address them. And that's just one example. We saw it at the Cabrillo Pavilion as well. And I'm sure given time I could come up with others, but watch out.
Craig, I'd like to point out that I hope you can do this for us. I think I'm correct to say that when the city does some work, they should look at the transition plan to see what is there. I don't think anyone's, or I shouldn't say anyone, it's not being done on a regular basis. And as Nick's pointed out, and there's thousands of examples, they don't look at what the transition plan says. So their new guy who's getting paid money to design something doesn't even look at what's there. We should not let this transition plan go unviewed.
Agreed. And
right?
Just so you know, to your point, we did that specifically at City Hall. We shared the report and the spreadsheet with Don Sherry Associates.
Okay.
So they knew what items to look for and include in their drawings from the plan itself.
And you're talking about the 2008 transition
It
plan.
was the
correct?
07 plan, but we also gave them the CAST survey.
Okay,
So
great.
they have both, and they can design to that.
And I think you're aware we can call a special meeting, and you talked about a long discussion, a long meeting. I'm open for something in January if other people would like to show up, and we could just talk about, once you get your spreadsheet done.
Yeah.
I don't want to put this off for another 3 months if we can get something done soon, especially your readily achievable aspects.
Right.
And your handles and the signage. It's just ridiculous that we don't do that.
So I have a comment.
Can I,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I want to say that we haven't asked for any public comment yet, so if there's any Zoom or no one in the room, but is there a Zoom comment about the transition plan discussion?
None online.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Elizabeth, go ahead.
No, I just want to point out, I know that, I plan checked a few of the plans that Don Sherry put together for the City Hall. And because it gets really dicey when you are putting on programs, like City Hall's a great example. You've got members of the community coming in to speak to their representatives. So you've created a program of communication, of presentations, and so you don't get to use the 20% cap. That isn't applicable to a Title II entity. And I think she seems to use that a lot. And so you need to take a look at those kinds of things. If it's a project that's specifically for ADA and accessibility improvements, then, then that code allows you just that. But if there's multiple parts to the project, then, and it's a program, you don't get to say, I'm not going to do this because it exceeds my 20%. A Title II doesn't get that benefit of that particular exception.
Understood. And just to be clear, that project is only for ADA upgrades. That is his entire purpose.
Okay.
Can I ask if that, if the subject of on-site parking has come up in those discussions? Because today, the ADA parking at City Hall is staff only. And anyone who doesn't have a parking pass is subject to ticketing. I have been ticketed there. I feel like that there's 3 spaces there that go unused all the time. And I understand the city's desire to keep that parking lot. It's not a public parking lot, it's a staff parking lot. But I think that a policy of exception for ADA parking is warranted. I think that we have heard from the police department that in the case of private property, commercial property that's open to the public, they cannot reserve ADA parking to customers only. They have to allow the public to use their ADA parking, and I think the city should be held to the same standard. And I don't know what we need to do to make the program of engaging with our government more accessible in this regard, with regard to parking. I think it seems to me we just need to clarify the policy on enforcement in that parking lot. And I've brought it up before, and I'm wondering how we can get some traction on moving forward with that.
Yeah, that's a conversation we can have with folks up at City Hall. I don't know how many staff who are in that building have a placard, but there are only so many spaces in the downtown area, and to have some going unused, I understand it's a missed opportunity if we could open that up. So we'll check in on that.
This is Chair Marston. Do you know who does the enforcement on giving tickets at City Hall parking lot? Is it City Hall workers, or is it the police come in, or does anyone know?
I think there are staff who have the ability to issue citations.
Anything else? Lunch?
Early, yay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Brian, perhaps someone in the